Good afternoon. I'm here today at Ziongates with Brother Allan X, and we are discussing today his book, Mathematical Theology and the Physics of God. So first, I would like Allan X to please introduce yourself.
Peace. My name is Allan X. I'm an author and theological researcher, also a student of the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad under the guidance of Minister Farrakhan and a member of the Nation of Islam. I'm very happy to be here again.
Well, the title of your book alludes to extensive research having been done, and I would like to first ask you, what was your motivation to write this book?
My primary motivation of writing the book was to serve as an academic defense for the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad beyond just mere belief, because there's many ideologies and theologies and people believe a lot of things, yet these beliefs have to be substantiated with some type of scientific and mathematical facts to support what we're saying. So I did research in various aspects of the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to show and prove that it's not just fantastical or made up mythological teachings, but they're actually rooted in truth and science and mathematics and the wisdom of the universe. So that was my number one motivation for trying to prove that what he taught was absolutely right and exact.
Your first chapter is titled Divine DNA of the Cosmos, and it is loaded with scientific data. So could you give an overall description of the chapter and how that sort of lays the foundation for the remaining chapters?
Yes. Divine DNA of the cosmos specifically deals with the evolution of God in terms of him evolving out of what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad called a triple darkness. In ancient Kemet, they call it the waters of Nu, this watery black substance that have matter dissolved in it, and him emerging out of it as a revolving atom of light, and then finding in the darkness, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, a fine atom of water, and began creating himself and forming a physical body out of that black material that he initially emerged. But I titled it Divine DNA because I think sometimes when we talk about the self-creative process of God, that we skip over the fact that he began as a luminous atom of light, but then the Honorable Elijah Muhammad mentioned in Theology of Time lecture series that he then found an atom of water in the darkness and began creating himself out of a fine atom of water. And when you study the DNA molecule, it is 90% water. So what he was describing to us was that initial coming about of the DNA molecule, then evolving into what we know today as morphing into a human form. But also in that, the light representing the fire that came out of that darkness represents the masculine male active principle, and the water represents the female passive principle. So we have the duality of the reality of God also in that self-creative process.
One of the following chapters in your book is entitled The Making of a Mystery God in Contemporary Islam. So could you explain what is meant by a mystery God?
Yes. First, the word mystery denotes the unknown, that which is not known. But in particular, I'm entitled the chapter that because we have in what is called the Supreme Wisdom Lessons given to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad by his teacher, Master Farad Muhammad, he raises the question, who is that mystery God? And then the question is answered by saying there is not a mystery God. The Son of Man has searched for that mystery God for trillions of years and was unable to find a mystery God. So they have agreed that the only God is the Son of Man. So they lose no time searching for that does not exist. So the answer and the question deals with the very nature or the essence of God. And particularly in Western Christian society, I would say that we've been taught that God is other than man, that he was too pure, too righteous and holy to possess a physical, material, earthly body. But this contradicts what we have documented in ancient texts throughout all of the ancient black civilizations. God is always presented as an anthropomorphic being. Anthropos, of course, being man in morph form. He always possessed some type of human or bodily form. And particularly, I named it the making of a contemporary, a mystery God in contemporary Islam, due to the fact that the Islamic world today is predicated on God being other than man, which is very, very far from the truth and is not supported by what they call Sahih or sound Hadith reports, neither by Quran nor Bible or any other ancient text. In particular, for one to become a Muslim, according to them and their scholars, they say you take your shahada, and part of that is acknowledging that there is no God but Allah and that Muhammad is his messenger. However, the Arabic La ilaha illallah is loosely translated as there is no God but Allah. So they said with that alone proves that God cannot be man, because that would mean there are many other gods outside of Allah. However, La ilaha illallah, the ilah is not the same as Allah. So it doesn't say that there's no God other than Allah. No, ilah means it denotes the worship of the deity. So it is saying that there is no other deities or gods worthy of worship except that supreme one at that time, which is in harmony with exactly the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught, that there were 24 scientists that would write their history in advance 25,000 years in cycles, 25,000 year cycles, and that one of those major 24, or the 24 scientists, 12 major the Father, 12 minor the Son, one would serve as the supreme being over the rest. So this declaration of faith, or this part of the Shahada, that La ilaha illallah, no, it does not say that there is no God but Allah. There are other gods that exist, but not worthy of worship. It's only the one supreme to whom our worship should be dedicated to. Now, in studying the Islamic history, we have the fall of the Abbasid dynasty in 750. This was the last black dynasty. They ruled from 661 to 750. All right. Then they was overthrown in what is called the Abbasid Revolution by the Abbasid, who I won't get into that, but the name is supposed to be based off of one of the youngest uncles of Prophet Muhammad. However, Prophet Muhammad and his lineage was pure black. This Abbasid revolution was really a Persian, Turkish, Roman invasion. So basically, whites that came and overthrew the original black dynasty, and by doing that, they began changing the theology of the reality of God. Because see, when you study Prophet Muhammad, the early companions in the Quran, you'll see that they believed in anthropomorphic deity, and beyond that, they believed that God was an original black man, not like what is taught today. This is due to the Abbasid marrying on Greek philosophy onto Islamic theology. So they began reinterpreting the anthropomorphisms in the Quran with the tool of Greek philosophy, mainly Plato and Aristotle. And this which led to an abstract, formless, immaterial deity. However, the Bible nor Quran advocates such.
Well, you're very well spoken and clearly well researched, and the book is very well written. So we'll continue on in that fashion by letting me ask you, who or what is Yahweh?
Yahweh is is the God of ancient Israel. And when we speak of Yahweh, we're dealing with Israelite history, particularly in what was usually called the Old Testament, right? But it's the Hebrew Bible. In the Hebrew Bible, Yahweh is the black God of ancient Israel, and he's actually also called the Bull of Israel. And this black bull representing that black primordial darkness of the cosmos from which he emerged out and used that black material to create for himself a physical form. And the number one theophany, which is the appearance of God to a people, the number one theophany that dominates the Torah, is him appearing to ancient Israel, is what is called Araphel. And Araphel in Hebrew means thick blackness or thick darkness. So here again, and he's presented as a man, but also as a black man. So the God Yahweh, the God of ancient Israel, is a black human God possessing a body. He's not an immaterial, abstract nothing. He's a physical something. So what we're dealing with is the nature of divine, and we'll find it congruent with Quran and various other ancient civilizations. God is always depicted as a physical being in possession of a body. Now, this is also taught in Kabbalah, which is what you would call, I guess, a part of esoteric Judaism, or mystic, or sometimes called mystical Judaism. But God emerges out, right, as what they call kavod, luminous, luminosity, a luminous being. But then it says that he then wraps himself in arafel, thick blackness. So he starts, just as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught, that God created himself from an atom of light coming out of darkness, then took that darkness and covered that luminous light in what is called in Hebrew arafel. So Yahweh is the black God of ancient Israel, in short.
In short.
Yeah.
Yes, and that is a wonderful answer, and there's a lot to be learned from your teachings, from your studies. Could you tell us a little bit about the chapter that you've titled Planet, Moon, and Deportation, Scientific Evidence of an Ancient Myth?
Yes, that particular chapter, and that's one of those aspects of the teachings that I wanted to give some scientific or hard proof for, to show that what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught on it was correct and right and exact. That particular chapter is based off of an aspect of the teaching of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, where he stated that the origin of the moon was based on one of our black scientists 66 trillion years ago, who became frustrated because he could not force his will on the people to get all the people to speak the same dialect. So he went to work and drilled a hole that reached approximately the center of the earth and filled it with high explosives, 70 times more powerful than the present world's dynamite. And in this explosion, it split the earth into two, which projected that now piece that we have as a satellite called Moon into space. And that's what he said was the origin. Now, when you hear that, some may think sounds fantastical, okay? And this is what I wanted to do, is to try to go into the science of what he said and why he said it, to show that, no, this is just not some made-up teaching, but it's rooted in science. So when we study in the scientific community now, there's three leading lunar origin theories. One that's widely accepted now, which I'll deal with last, but the first three were the fission theory, that the Earth, Earth in its early beginning stages after it was formed, was spinning so fast that it casted off a piece of itself. It was spinning so fast that a bulge happened and around the equator, that part broke off, and that became the moon. Okay, and that was proposed by Charles Darwin, of course, renowned evolutionist, his son, George H. Darwin. Then the next one up was the binary accretion theory, that the moon and the earth formed at the exact same time from the same primordial dust cloud, and then, of course, that the moon began trapped in the gravitational field of the earth and began rotating around it. And then lastly was the capture theory, that the moon actually formed somewhere else in space and then came within our solar system and got sucked in by the gravitational pull of the earth and has been there ever since. But the most current and widely accepted, or what they teach in the schools now, is what is called a giant impact theory, that object from space, 1/3 the size of planet Earth, slammed into the earth and then projected a piece of the earth out into space. And there is some truth in all of the theories, but when we deal with European teachings, there is usually truth mixed with falsehood. And so you have to sift through the falsehood to get the root of the truth. So in all of those four different theories that can be easily defeated. So I go through each of the four theories and debunk how scientifically they don't stand up. And then I put the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's lunar origin, we could say theory, which I validate as truth, on display for scientific scrutiny. And it actually is rooted more than all the other theories in hard science and mathematical facts. And on top of that, there was two scientists that said we don't agree with any of the lunar origin theories that our colleagues have, proposed to the public. We actually think there needs to be take another look at this, and they came up with what they call an alternative to the lunar origin theory. And in their paper, they said, like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, that the moon formed from an explosion that happened in the very center of the earth and projected it out into space. So the most current of their studies and their scientists is now agreeing. And this is not unusual. This always happened, that this scientific community always, catch on late. And then their theories and what they say after they revise, their teaching, it comes closer and closer in agreement to what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught. And that's what is outlined in the chapter, Planet Moon, Deportation, Scientific Evidence of the Ancient Myth. And we do find in various histories stories that gives somewhat of a historical look on that past time explosion. For instance, you have in the Maori, right? The Maori civilization, they have among them, you could call it a folklore or something like that, or a legend, that this god Tahawking, he got upset and he stomped on the floor of heaven, which caused a crack in the heaven, which caused the celestial waters to pour. That sounds exactly like the angry scientist who got upset and drilled into the earth and caused an explosion, and that explosion that projected part of the planet out into space turned over and dropped the water back down on to planet Earth. So this is also why I called it myth, because even in what is called myths, there is some truth. And I go through a few different what is called myths of various indigenous tribes around the world, where they have this story about, when a great explosion happened and a flood happened, just to revalidate or add further proof and confirmation to what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught concerning lunar origin.
Wow. Well, there's certainly a lot to learn here. Could you talk a little bit about how the Arabic language corresponds with the musical scale, and perhaps touch on the hidden language that's held therein?
Yeah. That particular chapter came by me. I was studying the music scale and looking at the arrangement and the octaves that correspond to the various letters. And what I noticed when I put the letters together and the various octaves, like for instance, the letter musical note C, which is represented by Do. When we put these various letters and these sounds that accompany the letters together, they actually form Arabic words, which was, to me, very revealing and telling, because that tells us that the Arabic is, in fact, a very ancient language, and is concealed in the music scale. So there's various words in them, like, for instance, Fa, Re, Do. Well, when we drop the E and the O in the Fa, Re, Do, you get the Arabic word Fard, as in Master Fard Muhammad, or the obligatory part of Muslim prayer, which is called Fard. Ramadan, Islam, various Arabic words we find directly emerging out of the music scale. And the significance also corresponds back to the chapter Divine DNA of the Cosmos, because in the DNA alphabet, it contains 4 letters, but only 3 of those 4 letters is used to make what is called codons, which are genetic words, okay, that form the building up of various cells and essentially the body. Well, the same thing we find in the Semitic languages, Hebrew, Aramaic, Arabic, etc. You have 22 letter-based alphabet. The Arabic has 28 now, but originally it had 22, like all of its Semitic siblings. But these 22 letters, you can take 3 of them and they form the root of the word. 3 consonantal letters, just like the genetic language, the codon or genetic words are formed based on 3 letters, and also in the genetic language there's 22 expressions, so to speak, that correspond to the 22 letters in the Semitic alphabet. And that, of course, is in a section called the unfolding of the Semitic language in the DNA. So that would be one point on it.
Very, very interesting. Is there anything else that you would like to mention or comment about your new book?
I think we covered a lot, and I think that is pretty good for the most part. And I just hope that people pick up the book, and you don't even have to take anything on face value, because if I make a statement or a claim, then I offer the proof of the claim. Now, you can interrogate the proofs that I offer and try to refute that, but it's hard to refute science and mathematics with emotion, because you may not, quote unquote, believe as I believe or accept it. Now, if we're truthful people, then we accept what is true and what has been proven and substantiated to be true. So I just hope that people see it as a academic work in defense of the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And thankful for the interview and you taking time out of your day to do the interview. And thankful to Brother Asa and what he's doing here at Ziongates to give a platform for self-published authors.
Indeed. So, and thank you as well, Brother Allan X. If somebody wanted to purchase your book beyond purchasing it here at Ziongates, where could they find it?
They could get it from our website, mathematicalislam.com. That's mathematicalislam.com. And also, it's available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. But I would prefer them to come and get it from the website, from my website, mathematicalislam.com. That would be the best way.
Great. Okay, again, Mathematical Theology and the Physics of God by Brother Allan X. Again, I thank you for the time. It's been an honor. And we also thank King Asa for the time here at Ziongates. And we'll tune in next time. Peace.
Peace.